Welcome to this episode. Now, usually I would be your host, Jade Green, but today I'm going to be your guest, Jade Green. This episode was recorded for the No Bullshit podcast for contractors. Now, although the content in this was originally designed for anyone that's a tradie, running a trades business or a contracting business, the principles are absolutely universal. So in this amazing conversation that I have with Andrew Houston, we go through what you need to do to stand out and win the war for talent in such a bloody red sea out there for trying to attract people, win them from the competitors. What you need to do as a business owner and as a business leader to connect with your humans so that you're able to not only retain them, but to motivate them to stay with you, but really up the productivity levels, up the profitability levels for each of the individuals working with you. We really do go deep on the leadership mindset and how you utilize that to front load your hiring process and your recruitment process and your retention strategies and turning them into weapons for you. So jump in, dig deep. This one has so many tangible tips on how you can hire, train, and lead your team to greatness. No surfing in this one though. Sorry, guys. Just the surfboard in the background. Get after it. You'll have a great time.
All right, everybody. Welcome to another No Bullshit podcast for contractors. This is quite hilarious because I already had launched this podcast, but I didn't realize that, or I forgot to go live. So anyways, we're going live. I got Jade with me. We're going to rock the house. And really, you're at the right place if you're a contractor, if you're somebody that wants to improve your business and take it to the next level. If that's not you, get off this thing. Go spend your time doing something else, right? Get out of here, right? Jade, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
I am pumped to be here.
Cool. Now, this is our second kick of the can at this. So we're going to rock it now that it's our second kick of the can. I was just saying how funny it is that it looks like you got snow. Meanwhile, you're in where?
In Gold Coast, Australia.
Right. And that's not snow. That's actually the sun is just, hidden from the clouds, right? Or the mist.
I'll jump off cam for a sec. Usually right about now, the sun is just started to rise above the horizon. It's a spectacular view. I look like I'm like an all-star because I've got like a halo behind me and you can see the blue ocean. And, if you're super lucky, you see like a dolphin go by.
Oh my God. And meanwhile, I got like 2 feet of snow here.
Yeah. Well, yesterday morning, I took a photo of a giant stingray just off my balcony here.
Seriously?
Yeah, like a giant.
Okay, I'm getting on a plane and I'm heading down to your place. That's what we're going to do.
Well, now we're like, never show the children because they'll never go swimming.
So let's talk about, why we're here. And we're going to be talking about something that's super, super important. I just released this book here, How to Steal Your Competitors' Tradespeople Ethically. And, the hiring, building an A team is literally an epidemic today. I mean, tell us a little bit about yourself and, what do you do? And then we're going to get right into some tactics and strategies that are going to help all the listeners.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So as I mentioned to you before, I'm going to give the disclaimer again, just in case we offend anyone. So right. I look like this real girly girl, and I'm a real juxtaposition because I'm equal parts girly girl, tomboy, and entrepreneur. I grew up with my dad, who was a single dad of 3 girls. He was an ex-merchant Navyman who turned into an actual mercenary in the Congo.
Yikes.
And then moved on to be a tradie, right? So the cuss words fall out of my face on the regular. And if I try to censor myself, it all just it actually ends up just sounding like I'm talking bullshit because I'm not being authentic. So if you can't handle me saying fuck, please say, see ya, Felicia.
Right. Bye. You got it.
Okay.
So you're in good company here, okay? You're in good company. So we're not the most politically correct, but what are we about? We're about really helping contractors and just getting right down to the nuts and bolts of tactics and strategies that are proven that work for these guys. And today it's about getting all the listeners, our champion CEOs out there, getting them some tactics and strategies to help build their A team. And you recently did a training for our group. Is that correct?
Yeah, I sure did. Let me tell you guys why they should listen to me.
Yes.
Because although I've grown up from a tradie family and I could pierce an ear with a nail gun at 9, that is not the reason why you should listen to me on this topic. So I've spent the last 6 years traveling the globe, learning everything about people and culture and coaching and consulting, scaling businesses, how to build kick-ass teams. But before that, I spent 13 years in the trenches in headhunting and recruiting into the construction trades and into the industrial trades. So I've been in there, I've done all of the calls. I've been like from tiny little mom and pop business all the way through to the massive global corporations. So I've heard every fucking excuse you can give me on why your team sucks and it's not your fault, it's theirs. Right. And we ain't having that today.
I love it. I love it. So you're really saying, I think one of the main points that we're looking at here is owners really need to take ownership, right?
Yes.
Of their ship and the shit, right?
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about, an example of that. And I really would like you to, highlight on the call that you had with our team. There was a situation where somebody was highlighting some, reasons, feeling bad that they had somebody that they had hired, and then the person, ended up quitting, and the owner was like, I've got it, my environment's really good and all the rest. And this is, so everybody listening in, before Jade does her thing, whether you're driving in the truck, no matter where you're at, I want you to be open to what Jade is about to tell you and how that conversation went, because it should give you a bit of a reality check. So Jade, it's all yours. Take the mic.
Beautiful.
What happened in that conversation?
So firstly, have you heard of Jocko Willink and his book, Extreme Ownership, or listened to any of his podcasts? Yeah. This is where I have. Every single owner needs to start with extreme ownership in life in general. A little hint, happy wife, happy life. If you can start with a little bit of extreme ownership and think about where you might be at cause in certain situations, you can change the landscape. Now, use your powers for good, not evil, right? But we really do need to take some ownership over where we may have been at cause in a situation. Now, I'm not saying at fault or at blame. I'm saying at cause. Right. Okay. We won't name names and name and shame one of your amazing.
That's right. That's right. That's cool.
But we had the training session. One of you guys was like, people leave me, and like this guy just left, and like he'd been with me for years. So I'd given him all this, I gave him all this opportunity, and he just left me. And I'm like, okay, cool. Tell me what his wife's name is. Crickets. Does he have kids? How old are they? What else is going on in his life? Like, what other stresses are they under? I don't know. Why should I know that? Like, that's their home life. Excuse me. Why the fuck should they care about your home life and growing your business and putting money in your back pocket and reducing your stress if you don't care about theirs?
Oh my God, drop the mic. I mean, seriously, everybody, listen into this, grab that mirror, and we talk about extreme ownership. Okay. Adam on here is saying good points, Jade. Seriously, if we don't have that relationship where we don't even know those things, I mean, especially in my opinion, you don't know, the wife or the spouse or things of that nature, you're bang on. I mean, we're expecting so much out of these people, right? We're expecting them to stick around with us.
No one works as hard as me.
Yeah, totally. Why do you think that people don't, why do you think that we take that for granted?
I think it comes from coming through from the industrial age, and specifically it is actually even more common in trade and industrial based businesses than say it is in technology or emerging industry, because they've had to adapt and they've had to do a bit more work. But when you look at trade or industrial, we've often come indoctrinated through an old system and an old process. And our leaders of those business maybe legacy. They might be our dads or our uncles, or we've come in as an apprentice, but it's an old school business, and there's not been this external EQ wake up side of things. But it's kind of like, this is how it's always been done. And like, you work hard for your dollar, and they should be lucky. And back in the day, you were lucky to have a job, right? And so this old mentality of I pay them, they should be fucking grateful. I give them a job. Jobs are hard because there's still some people have this old programming, like it's still hard to get a job. And the other thing is, though, we love our business. We think it's epic. So like in our heads, it's amazing. So we
I got to challenge you on that one.
What? Yes.
Can I challenge you?
Yeah.
Like, and this is part of the no bullshit, right? Like podcast is we're here and we're having this conversation, but I just got to challenge you on that one. Okay.
Yeah.
There are the business owners that love it. They love their business, right? And they're completely engulfed in them, right? Which is along the lines of what you're talking about, right? Where they don't know anything about the spouse or their family situation, or even their dreams or their goals or things of that nature. But there's also, because we come across a lot of this, where the contractor, the owner, has gone through so much hell for so long that there is a bit of resentment that he actually has against the business. And I'm bringing that up because, that also is an energy, right? But it's a negative energy that you've got all these employees, that's not, in all honesty, it's not, we're making it their problem, right? We're making our problems their problem. And can you talk to that a bit?
I certainly can, because I've literally been working with an electrician business, and it's really interesting because they've got an electrician business and they've also gone into coaching electricians.
Right.
And this passion for the growth-minded people who are in the coaching, they're like, oh, I love this. And this resentment for the trade business came up.
Right.
And like I busted my ass for fucking 10 years to build this business. Yes. And they can just turn up. Like, I've done all the hard work. They just get to turn up, and I've built the brand, and like, they look great, and I give them good trucks. And then there's this resentment over why it's not doing well once they've stepped away a bit. Mm-hmm. The people aren't as grateful as they should be because of all the hard work I've done. And there's this energy, and this owner, every time he turned up to the meeting, would like, he didn't even realize this fucking ball of energy and walk in.
Yeah, like, I can see it. Well, I'm seeing it right now. It's true. It's true.
And it's like, I don't get it. Like, then they don't talk to me. I'm like, dude, I don't want to talk to you. Like, check you out. You're like about to explode, and right. You haven't even spoken a word because you're looking at the numbers and you're freaking out. And like, you've got like, if everyone understands, energy is like, everything is energy, right? And we radiate. And the best example is, everyone knows what resting bitch face looks like, right? Everyone can read resting bitch face.
Right.
So you've got to think about, are you walking into a conversation with worse than resting bitch face? Because your nonverbal cues are going to set somebody up, and then they're going to jack up, and then we're going to get into this battle.
Right.
And it's not gonna work for anyone. So the thing that I really want to teach people is, you've got to check your own agenda. You got to.
How do you go about doing that?
Your own agenda before you walk in, and manage your energy. Like, step into the third space and clear your energy, and really think about what is the outcome you're wanting, and what energy you need to radiate, and like to actually get the best out of a conversation or a situation without throwing the wrong energy on it. You know it when you walk into your house and your spouse is all tensed up and you don't even know, and you're like, what did I do wrong? And it may not even be you, but then you're already on the back foot and you're ready to defend. You're backing up to say, like, okay, I'm ready. Like, let me have it. And it's just,
so what would they like? That totally makes sense, right? And I think a lot of times we're so engulfed in whatever our mental state is that we don't think about these things. So what would be some tactics that, say for example, you got these guys, gals, you got the, these people that are contractors, they're working today, in this case, if they're here in my area, they've got a ton of snow, things have been delayed. They probably couldn't get the material. Clients are like, hey man, I called you, you're supposed to be here on time, you're late. So there's all this negative energy. What are some ways that they can sort of hit that reset button and be able to go into the proper state of mind?
One of the biggest tools I can give anyone for life in general, so whether this home life or work life, is being able to enter the third space. Now, there's a whole book around it, but let me just give you it super, super easy. Okay. So you're going from home to work, right? You've had a shit fight with your kids or your wife or something. You're taking that bad energy and you think you've checked your shit that's all because I'm fine, but you're actually still radiating, right? Same thing. Had an absolute shit day at work and you're all bent up. You're taking that home. Little Johnny pulls on your pants and is like, Dad, play football with me. You're like, not now. I'm too busy. Later, right? You're snapping at them. You've had one meeting with a supplier and the delivery's not coming. All your metal is stuck somewhere else and you can't put your trusses up because you've got no metal and you're freaking out.
Right.
And then you take that into a performance review or a conversation with one of your teams. One of you guys has come, his missus has got corona and he needs a couple of days to help look after the kids. He comes in and you're like already at him and then he feels like you hate him and everything's gone nosedive, right? So you want to think about how can you create a third space for yourself to clear your energy and to wipe off that energy hangover or the shit that's holding you back on something else and not throw it onto somebody else. And it's so easy. You can do some really, really, really simple things. So one of the things we teach our guys is just box breathing. So just 3 rounds of box breathing. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 6, hold for 4. Do that 3 times. And just while you're doing it, just going, I'm just going to focus on what it feels like to breathe in and out. Like, where do I feel it? Am I breathing through my nose? What's that sensation like? Oh, I'm supposed to be breathing into my stomach, not my chest, so I'm not in anxiety. What does that feel like? Oh, cool. Okay, I've got out of the monkey mind. I've quietened all the shit. I've neutralized my energy. But also by doing that breathing thing, when we focus on the longer exhalation, we're telling our parasympathetic nervous system that we are safe and we're not in fight or flight. And we don't need to be in freak out. So we're actually changing our chemicals and our biology within our body in a couple of minutes, right? And you've just leveled the playing field. And now you're in a position that you can respond rather than knee-jerk react. And you're not walking in projecting an energy on someone that puts them on the back foot and the defensive instantly and like makes them go into fight mode or flight. They freak out and don't give you any answers because they're like, you hate me, right? So easy. So that's one that you can do. You can, and you don't need anything.
So just recap. Everybody's like, maybe they're thinking a box, but guys, literally, Jade is talking about an invisible box, right? So
you breathe in a box.
4 sides. So you got the top.
Let's do it together.
Yeah, let's do it together.
Okay? So I usually tell everyone to close their eyes down, just get centered. Feel like if you're standing, feel the floor on your feet. If you're sitting, feel the chair on your ass. Close your eyes and say to yourself, with intention, I'm going to be here now. I'm just parking all of the bullshit in the monkey mind. Cool. And we're going to come in, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold, 2, 3, 4. And you do that 3 times. Now, on the last one, though,
I honestly felt it.
Yeah, it dropped, like the energy is like, ooh, grounded.
That's
right. And you can do that anywhere.
You can do that anywhere.
Sit in your car when you first pull up so I told you I run an engineering team.
Yeah.
And we've got a virtue of when you get to the threshold of the building, it's showtime, motherfuckers.
Right.
And everyone's got their own stuff going on. And so we created a habit that everyone pulls up into the car park and they either do the box breathing or they might do Wim Hof breathing, or we've given them a couple of tools, but they sit in the car and they do that to enter the third space. And then they literally walk up to the door, and before they walk into the door, they go, showtime, motherfuckers. and then they walk in and say hi to anyone else that's in the building, so that they're not projecting any of their bad stuff upon anyone else. But yeah, that it just levels the energy. I also use Wim Hof breathing. So a lot of my team have the Wim Hof app on their phone, and it takes 5 minutes before they go into a meeting, and they sit and they just do the Wim, and then they're good to go. And I also use a thing called a meeting maximizer, which gets you to think about who is the person that I'm about to talk to? What is their thinking and action dynamic? So are they a auditory person? Are they a person that needs to see detail? Like, are they big picture, or are they detail person? Are they extroverted, like energy, or are they really calm and need the detail? So that you can speak so they can hear you and like meet them where they're at their energy level and in the way that they learn and the way that they think. And you can curate how you show up to focus on that. And then thinking, okay, what's success look like at the end of this conversation? Like, what do I want the outcome to be? What's the ultimate outcome I want? And what do I want them to think, feel, say, and do at the end of it? So
think, say, feel, and do, right?
Yeah.
So notice, everybody listening in, that, Jade is being very intentional. No matter what she's talking about, there is that level of ownership, right? That extreme ownership that when you coming back to what you said earlier, these things all feed into extreme ownership, don't they?
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Because if we're not taking control of ourselves to begin with, right? And that means our mental state, then how in God's name can we ever deliver and communicate to somebody in the way that we want? And in conjunction with that, you just highlighting some of these points, you asked that, that person on that's part of the Champion CEO group, like, what's the name of their spouse? I mean, right? Again, if you don't right now know, if you don't have any insight on what's going on in your employee's life, why would they have any desire to continue because it's hard work, going out in the cold, going out in the heat, doing the heavy lifting, dealing with clients. Like, it's got to have value for them. And part of that value is you having that, that relationship with them. Right.
Yeah.
And then what's that? What were you going to say?
I was going to say, well, the thing you need to understand is your employees are not applications. Right. This is not I don't know what you guys use. It's not Asana. They're not a Trello. They're not a Slack app. They're not an app that doesn't have feelings and have emotions and have things running in the background that you can just throw work at and expect outcome to get spat out. And you need to look at the whole human.
Right.
And if you can focus on the whole human, and you can reduce the VUCA and the stress levels and the anxiety and everything else that's going on in the rest of their world, they're only going to show up better for you, because all of that stuff is chewing up their brain RAM, chewing up their energy levels, chewing up their anxiety. It's running in the background. It doesn't, like, they can't literally just check it at the door. Even like some people that you think can compartmentalize or detach, like having a detachment syndrome can be good for some situations, but it comes back to bite them on the ass in the end, and it'll show up in a massive fuck up on a job because they've detached and then something's happened and their brain's not being there, and next minute they've friggin' dug through an electricity line, and you're like, fuck. And they're like, I don't know.
Now we got a big problem. And by the way,
a really big problem.
Yeah, I get it. As an electrician, I get it. Bad
idea, right?
Yeah, bad idea. So when we're looking at, retaining clients, or retaining team members, or we're looking at even retaining clients, this
works with retaining clients too.
Yeah, totally. Right. If you're going in and your attitude isn't checked at the door, you've heard this before, and you're not being present, like what Jade is saying, guys, you're putting at risk your culture. And let's talk a little bit about that, right? You're putting at risk this environment that you're making it toxic, right? Which is a major problem. Nobody wants to be in a toxic environment. So, around culture, what would you say is one of the biggest, trip ups or, things that people, when it comes to culture, that they don't really realize the importance of culture. What would you say to that?
Yeah. We've got a great culture. We have beers once a month and a barbecue. No one ever comes though, but we have a great culture. That's not a culture. So what you really need to think about is, we'll go down the mass resignation and the lie flat phenomenon afterwards, but let's just go back to the thing that we can offer humans that other opportunities can't: connection. Right? So I believe that we're humans here, we're souls here having a human experience, and we didn't come here just to grind and work our asses off. We came here for connection and experience. So what you need to do, if you want to keep someone in your business and you want to build a culture, you need to look at how you can satisfy the 7 human needs, right? We need to have a look at how we can give them growth and contribution and significance, but safety, psychological safety, physical safety. But most importantly, how can we build connection, right? Because people don't leave businesses, they leave managers.
Wow,
and
that's
businesses,
a different concept. That's good.
Yeah, and businesses, it's all the studies show with the top places to work in the world, that if someone has a best friend at work or feels like they are genuinely cared about by someone, they stay 7 times longer, which makes them way more profitable, right? Way less turnover. We know the cost of attrition. And they're 7 times more productive as well. So they stay longer and they're more productive because they have connection and they feel like someone gives a fuck about them.
Right. Totally.
Right? You don't quit on someone.
It sounds so simple, right? Like it sounds so logical what you're saying. And yet I see it so often with so many businesses that we come across where they make those common statements that you said at the very, very beginning of this podcast, right? Like, I've done everything, I'm giving them everything and all the rest of that. Yet they're not doing these things that you're talking about. And give them they got a really nice van. They've got the top tools. Right. They got a nice uniform. I pay them. Guess what? Every other contractor, which you can tell probably in your book, can do. Absolutely. Any contractor worth half their salt offers the same fucking thing. That's right. Totally.
And there's probably someone doing it better than you. It's got a nicer truck.
Right.
It's got nicer tools, got a nicer uniform, got a better flow of leads.
So how do you build this how do you build that culture whereby, and I want to get into these other things before we wrap things up, but how do you build that culture where it is a friend type of there's friend type relationships there? And by the way, everybody think about this for a second. Old school, I look at my father, I look at my parents, first generation Canadian. They both are immigrants, came from Ireland. My dad's motto was "Suck it up, Andy. Suck it up," right? Type of thing. Like, you just get it.
My dad was in Supermax when I was born, and I grew up in a trailer park. Like,
there you go, right? There you go. So like, how do they go about? Somebody might be listening in, and I'll tell you what, it's not bullshit. Okay. You need to build these kind of relationships or have those kind of relationships available to your employees. How would they go about creating that?
Okay, cool. Let me share you my little tip, and I'll give you a link so that you can get them.
Cool.
Nice.
Icebreaker, best self. Beautiful.
Oh, right. Okay. So I work with a lot of trades. So not just contractor trades. Like one of my biggest clients are butchers.
Right.
And so butchering pretty tough gig too.
Yeah.
Right. And they call this the PTSD box. This is the deeper talk one. I've got another one over there. Actually, I've got a couple. Let me just grab them. This one's great for relationships at home. Yes,
nice.
This one's the baby deck. This is like the light box for icebreakers. I've got another one called small talk, which we use with kids. But everyone that I've used this with, when I first use it with them, they're like, fuck you and your bucket there. No. And do you know what? So I buy these to give to my clients. And I had a whole box delivered, but I don't usually give them to them first up. I like to see how they adapt it. Mm-hmm. Do you know I've never got to give a box yet, because after I've left the session, everyone has messaged me and gone, we just bought the box for everybody.
Right.
And I walk in and there's like 35 boxes in an office.
It's awesome.
Because they're like, oh my good God. So it's really easy. They're icebreakers. These are the deeper talk. I recommend the deeper talk because it goes a little deeper.
Sure.
And so I use it at the beginning of all of my meetings. Whenever I'm working with a new client, like I bring all the owners and the managers in and I make them do it first. And it's amazing to see how deep how much more connection they get and how much more work we can do together. But when we do one-on-one, so when my butchers sit down with one of their butchers to do a one-on-one, they start with an icebreaker. And they'll say to the guy, hey, mate, let's do this. It's going to be uncomfortable for me. It's going to be fucking uncomfortable for you, but we're going to do it. So pick a color. Let's play. So you get to choose. You have gray, yellow, green, blue, red, or slate. What color would you like?
Blue.
Blue. Okay. Blue. Okay. And then I just go, hey, tell me when.
Now.
Okay. Woo! What negative trait do you publicly laugh about, but secretly know you need to fix?
Oh my gosh. That's awesome. Like now I'm thinking, what negative?
That's under the label of courage, that one.
I think one of my negative traits is that I joke about things that are serious. And that happens like all the time and I'll get sometimes my wife, Jennifer, will be like, Andrew, like you're joking, like you just made a joke out of that thing that's super serious. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, just trying to, ease the pain and what have you. But I do that all the time. That's a habit. Sometimes it gets me into trouble. And I got that from my dad, who got it from his dad and all the rest of it. So there's an icebreaker.
Yeah. I have a horrible experience where I had to do a quote for Forbes magazine recently, and I made a bad joke about Corona. Yeah, it was my PR agent's like, did you just say that? And I'm like, everyone's worried about it, but no one died except for the people that died. But and he's like, oh,
you didn't just do that, did you?
And he's like, he writes me back going, they fucking love you.
Well, hey, part of it is like honest humor. That's the old, my dad would call it. That's like the old, well, I guess it depends where you come from. I'm sure every culture has it, right? But my dad, my parents, especially my father, has done it his whole life, right? Whereas you're like, oh my God, I can't believe you just did that. And he's like, and the one that's laughing the most is always him, right?
Yeah.
Losing it. So this is how you use these icebreakers, right? So it builds a relationship.
Yeah. So I just want you to think about what you would have just learned about someone. So say you had a team member that just told you that. What have you just learned about them for the future?
Right. Yeah.
Right. Because before, if you're not that type of person, right, you could have been thinking, sometimes he says things in meetings and you're like, what a dick.
Right.
And now you've just had an insight into their personality. And now you don't lay a judgment over something that they've done because you're telling yourself your own story about it.
That's totally cool.
Or you've shared with one of your team. And you can say, sometimes it gets worse. Like if I'm nervous, like it's just either more inappropriate. Mm-hmm. And so then they can start to get an insight into you, and they don't start telling themselves a story about, oh my God, you're a dick. I can't believe you just made a joke about cancer. Right. And you're like, well, actually, because I had someone that died of cancer and that's a thing for me and it's like a joke and that's the way I cope. And they like understand. And now you have a whole different level of understanding of how you communicate and act together without assigning a meaning and a story from a place of unknowing.
It's interesting. It's interesting that like what I just shared with everybody listening in, you've probably picked that up for me, if you've been listening to this podcast, where I actually do that all the time, right? So, these people can use these icebreakers, and it builds that next level of relationship, right? Which is coming back to what your point was, right? So everybody listening in, these are simple things that you can apply, and look, I love, Jade, that when you were positioning it, like when you're using the example and you said, hey, buddy, like we're both going to be uncomfortable about this. So if you're listening in and you're like, I don't know if I can do that, and you're a little bit uncomfortable about it, it's okay. That's the whole point, right? That's the whole point, right? Hence the
vulnerability.
Yep.
Right, is the key to courage.
Right.
And creativity. So if you, and this is all Brene Brown's work, if you want your team to be creative, and we all want our team to be creative, because that doesn't need to be creative, but you want them to problem solving,
yep.
and turning up with 2 solutions to a problem rather than 2 problems for every solution, right? Requires creativity, and it requires vulnerability and the willingness to put themselves out there and voice an idea, or to think for themselves without fear of judgment.
Right.
Using something like this shows them that there is a level of trust and non-judgment, which allows them to build the muscle of courage and creativity through vulnerability. Great. But you have to be willing to do it yourself. You don't get to skate. Like when I do this with my clients, I have to answer the questions
absolutely
myself as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And you know what? It's no bullshit, right? I mean, really, it's cool.
Cool. Like sometimes I'm like crying.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know what? Again, if you think about this, how would that differentiate you versus all the other contractors out there? If you're able to build this culture of people are able to be vulnerable, people are able to be real, you're getting rid of these freaking storytelling bullshit things that go on. And, if you got all these politics and crap going on where, he said, she said, you need to address this as it's a crack in your culture, right? And this is a great way to do it. So before we wrap it up in the next 5 minutes, what would be a couple of other things, or one, main thing that you'd want to share with this audience, when it comes to building your A team and really building a great company?
Okay, so going back to your lovely member, before, when I was asking the questions, like, what do you know about them?
Yeah.
That the next question was, why the fuck should they work for you? Right. What's in it for them?
Right.
So we really need to take a step back, like, because we look at it from our lens, what's in it for us, or why we think something's good for them. Right. But we're not in their shoes. So what you really need to do is go, what's in it for them? Why am I a great place to work? Why the hell should they work for me over these 3 competitors? So think about your 3 biggest competitors.
Yep.
And what do you offer because that candidate can work at all of you, right? That tradie can work for all of you, or he can decide that he wants to just go and start up an OnlyFans and try and make his money online, right? Get money elsewhere. So you've really got to go, holy shit, what makes us different? Why the hell should someone work for me? What are they looking for? So if you profile your talent and you go, okay, I don't know, hypothetically, you're looking at electricians and you're going, okay, the lay of the land at the moment, there's probably two types of people that are going to be interested in the electrician job. There's the younger guys that have just finished their apprenticeship. I can take them and they're going to be, 28 to 34. Cool. What's going to be appealing to them is different to what's going to be appealing to the guy that he's maybe run his own contracting business before. He's fucking done with it. It's too hard. He just wants to turn up. He still loves doing the work, wants to get away from his missus, but he doesn't want to have to run the business, right? And he's 50 to 60, but you could take him as well because they've got the skill, right? What's good for them is different. You got to speak so they can hear you, right? But you might go, actually, there's not enough of those people in the market right now. So I'm going to concentrate on these guys and I'm going to build my team out of that because that's going to give me the succession plan. I've got them running around whatever I need, the fitness, whatever it is. Great. What's in it for them? Why should they choose you over anywhere else? Right?
How do you go about answering that question?
You need to actually sit down with your fucking people and ask them. Have these conversations. Like really get into them. Like understanding what's their intrinsic and extrinsic motivators. So the stuff that's outside of work, it's not just a paycheck. Anyone can give them a paycheck. Anyone can give them a work truck. Anyone can give them a polo shirt. Right. what else do they need? Like, how can you support them besides the paycheck? Otherwise
oh my God, it's huge. Otherwise what?
Yeah. Otherwise you're going to be trading time for money, and no one's going to work as hard as you, right? Because it's not their business. If you want someone to give you more than time for money, you need to give them more than time for money.
I'll never forget a client, okay, that we'll just call him John. Okay, let's just say John is his name. And here in Canada, at least, here where I'm at, there's a lot of guys that play hockey. Okay, a lot of people play hockey. Okay, men, women, everybody. A lot of people play hockey here in Canada, right? So he comes to me and he says, "I'm so pissed off." Okay, and this is the same guy that came to me that was pissed off in conjunction with being frustrated. These guys want to basically come in late on a Friday. Around 9 o'clock, because they want to go and play hockey. And he's like, forget about it. He goes, the other thing that pisses me off, he says, all these team members of mine, most of them are hunters. And I'm like, I know exactly what you're going to say. He's like, come September, these guys are like, freaking, they're gone. They want to be gone. They want to be off for like, a week or two or whatever.
Elk season. Come on now.
Exactly. And I'm like, so what's the problem? He's like, I just told you what the problem is. Oh, no. Actually, you told me who the problem is. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, dude, these are people that they're busting their asses for you. They're trying to go out and do something that's physical that they love to do. They're letting it's not going to be random. It's going to be same time every week or every year. And you can't modify what's going on in your business to give these people what it is that they're asking for. And he's like, I don't know if I have time for that. I said, oh yeah, let me ask you the next question. How many guys have you lost because of this? And he just stopped. And I'm like, that's interesting. How many A players would you still have today if you had to let the guys go out and play freaking hockey on a Friday? A Friday morning, and they're what? They're 2 hours late on a Friday. Like, come, what? Seriously. So I love what you're saying, because we don't have these conversations. I think.
Let me just tell you a little bit.
Go ahead.
What you just talked about there is actually super important for productivity. Okay, not only because we're giving them something they want that they love, but I don't know. Have you ever heard of Stephen Kotler?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So I'm I've got my first call tomorrow. I'm doing the high flow leadership with Stephen. I shared some time on a catamaran in Jamaica with Stephen. Stole his fire. There's another story. And if you've read Stephen's Stealing Fire. So high flow leadership and understanding flow triggers and flow cycles. And we know that flow is the number one thing that increases your productivity, right? Because when you're in the zone, you're fucking in the zone, right?
That's right. Yep.
And you're happy, and it's like everything is and you're just chasing. It's like chase that rainbow. Right? The more flow you have, the more flow you get.
I love it.
So the more flow you get outside of work, doing the things that you absolutely love most, will condition you to have more flow in every other area of your business. Right? And challenge skills balance. Something like hockey, which is constantly challenging them, and they're in flow, they're loving doing what they're doing. Mm-hmm. They constantly challenge, they're upped. All of the chemicals are being released as well. That can only result in you having a better employee.
It's so true. It's so true.
Hunting. Think about the skill of hunting. Think about crafting the skill of hunting. Patience, accuracy, do you know what I mean? Planning.
Yes.
These are all traits that you would you go, God, I wish I had guys that they could plan a thing, and they were patient, and they had accuracy, and they were detail, and blah, blah. You're and you're taking away the training, and you don't have to pay for the training.
Well said. So well said. So we got to wrap this baby up. What would be that? That's it's amazing. Even though I brought that up, I didn't think of all those things that you were mentioning, you don't have to pay them, and all the skills that they're learning from that, and how it's applicable to business. Guys, inclusive of me, right? Even though I brought that up, we've got to recognize these things, right? We got to recognize what's valuable for them, right? And instead of it being about us, right? And getting deep enough that you understand what is valuable to them, not just, they want more. Okay. They all want more money. Oh, they want this. They want, those are like the basics.
They want more money because you're not satisfying another need.
Exactly. There you go. Beautiful.
I can tell you right now, I went through a negotiation just recently with one of our hydraulics engineers. He got offered an extra $30,000 base, a car and a fuel card to work the same hours. I offered him nothing extra and he stayed with us. What I did offer him was that he could negotiate, and if he could do his work later on the day and go fishing in the morning, I didn't give a fuck which shift he worked as long as the work got done.
Beautiful. There you go.
Like, I can start at 1 and work till 8 and go fishing in the morning once a week. And I'm like, get the job done. I don't care when you work.
Right. The totally different mindset. So what's the last thing that you'd say? Last tip.
The last thing I would say is connection. Connection trumps all. It's the thing that they can't get through technology or other jobs, or other things. That's the one thing that you can do differently and that will make the biggest difference in every area of your life.
I love it. Okay. Well, thank you. I mean, Jade, you crushed it out today. My last little thing is you take all the tactics and strategies. There's not one of them that you guys need some fucking high-end technology for. There's not one of them that you guys can't do. Okay. Yes, it might. Exactly. You might be getting yourself out of your comfort zone. That's awesome. That's the definition of you growing. Okay. Well, it's a sign of you growing, not the definition. And, Jade, how can these people reach out to you?
Yeah. Awesome. So you can find me on my website, which is just jadegreen.com.au. Perfect. And all of my socials is Jade Green AU for Australia. So Jade Green AU. Find me, hit me up, and I would love to hear what one of these tactics you start to implement. Beautiful. Okay, Jade, thanks, Rockstar. Thanks for bringing us the sun, okay, and the warmth as I'm in this freaking cold freaking freezer. I'm melting. Melting exactly. So like you're melting, and I'm like, where's the jacket? I need a jacket. I'm opening all the windows. Beautiful. Okay, well, thank you so much. You're more than welcome. We've got a place here for you in the cold and the snow anytime you want. And I know I'll be coming down to your place. Okay, so we'll catch you on the flip side. I'll take you surfing. Cool. See you later. Cheers. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Ciao, everybody. Cheers. Well, that was a heap of fun. I love getting to be a guest on other people's show, being put in the hot seat. I hope you guys got some gold out of that. I know that the contractors who listened had pages of notes. Now, just a little reminder that I have committed this year to doing regular 3-day small group intensives to help people build their kick-ass teams. And I promised my team that I'd open up 1 slot a month to doing some deep dive one-on-one work. So if you would like some help, hire, training, and leading your team to greatness, or anything to do with building your kick-ass team and would like a little bit of help from me, just shoot us an email at hello@jadegreen.com.au. And be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening to this, and you'll get heaps of free gold coming out on the regular. Okay, guys, see you on the next show.